What did you make of the nearly 3 rounds that we saw in the main event?
I definitely was hoping and expecting a little more from Stipe, but Jones just looked really, really good.
How big would this be for Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall? How big of a fight is that for UFC history?
This will be the biggest heavyweight fight in the history of the UFC.
Welcome to Uncaged on the talkSPORT MMA YouTube channel. Make sure you like and subscribe. I'm Adam Catterall. It is a pleasure to always be in your company as we review UFC 309. Lots of talking points coming off the back of Madison Square Garden and New York City. Now, normally sat alongside me is PFL featherweight championship hopeful Brendan Loughnane. However, he's knee-deep in camp. A week on Friday is when he takes on Kizirev for that featherweight championship. So we've let him finish off his camp, do his travels, get himself out to Saudi Arabia and get himself settled, ready for one of the biggest fights of his career. So who can we bring in? Well, I'll tell you who we're going to bring in. One of the best analysts in the game. Not only one of the best analysts in the game, but somebody who's been there, done it, and got the T-shirt in the UFC heavyweight division. The skyscraper himself, Stefan Struve. How are you, mate? You good?
Yeah, very well. Thank you.
Great to have you on the show, and I'm looking forward to picking your brains in the aftermath of everything that happened at UFC 309. I know that you were working extensively on the live broadcast for Holland and Europe at Madison Square Garden. So I've no doubt now that the dust has settled, you've got some further thoughts to add to everything that we saw. But we'll start with the main event, shall we? Jon Jones against the former foe of yourself in Stipe Miocic, a man that you've got a win over, of which we're going to celebrate in a minute, and we'll celebrate Stipe's career. But what did you make of the nearly 3 rounds that we saw in the main event?
Man, I was hoping it would be closer. Unfortunately, it wasn't. I was sitting down all the way up in Madison Square Garden and just taking it in, and then the way Jones slammed Stipe to the ground and Stipe was airborne, like that was unreal. And I knew like it's not gonna get close today. Like if you do stuff like this to Stipe Miocic, who is a phenomenal wrestler, just wow.
Why do you think it was like that? Do you think inactivity played a major role in Stipe's performance?
I think it definitely played a role. His age played a role, but he before Jones called him out, that's like a year and a half ago. I'm not sure how much he was training. I don't know if he was still like eyeing to fight, to get his belt back. And Ngannou, of course, moved on to the PFL. So I don't know what was going on. Even when he had him hurt in the fight, he didn't chase him like he usually does, and like part of that is also because Jon does a phenomenal job at moving away and regaining the distance where he wants to fight. But I definitely was hoping and expecting a little more from Stipe, but there's always the fine line between what people are saying is he's too old, inactivity, and then Jon Jones. So it's a combination of things, but I always give credit where it's due, and Jones just looked really, really good.
Yeah, listen, he showed glimpses of old Jon Jones in there, didn't he? I mean, as you mentioned, the wrestling in that first round was superb. The old elbows came out, which were vicious back in the day that we obviously fell in love with Jon. And even the finish, the timing of that finish, the spinning back kick finish was vintage Jon Jones. The conversation now is obviously off the back of that. What happens next? Do you genuinely believe that, given the narrative that we had last week, and even in the aftermath with Jon being asked questions in the press conference, that we will see the fight that every fight fan wants to see? Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall for the undisputed heavyweight championship.
I think Jon made it very clear what he wants. He wants a very, very big paycheck, and I think he deserves that. He puts it all on the line. He's 38, and I think the UFC should definitely do whatever they can to make that fight, because that's the fight everybody wants to see. I don't want to see him fight Pereira. That's not going to be close. It's simple as that. Pereira can knock out anybody on the planet, but even now, when you see him fight, when you see him wrestle, you see him do things that Jones would punish him on. He would take him down. He would keep him there. He would finish him on the ground. Simple as that. I want to see him solve the riddle of Tom Aspinall. Like, he has solved every riddle put in front of him. This one's very different, though, in my opinion. He's never faced anyone this big who moves like that. And yeah, everybody wants to see it, but like I think he's playing his cards the right way. Because if he would just say, "Yeah, I'll fight Tom Aspinall," that like it's a big difference in paycheck if you just go there, right? Oh yeah, sure, I'll do it. I'll do it. UFC is gonna make it, but now they know that it's gonna be tough negotiations, of course. So, but do I think we'll see it? Yeah, I have a feeling we will. I think I saw something from Tom this morning. John's got a huge ego, of course. When you fight at that level and you've achieved what he has done, ego is a big part of that. You want to be the best, and he's the best, the greatest of all time. I think. Imagine if he adds Tom Aspinall to that list of fighters he beat. That would be it. It already is insane, but man.
I think you've just said everything that where I'm at. I genuinely believe that we'll get there. I think it's going to take a little bit of time. Obviously, the UFC have got to add an extra zero maybe to the paycheck. I hope it don't take too long because obviously Tom fought in July. John's just had his fight. I personally would try and target something like an international fight week for the middle of next year. I don't want it to go on too longer than that. I hope the UFC take control.
Than that, yeah.
I hope the UFC take control of that conversation as well in order to make sure that happens.
Yeah, international fight week would be perfect, of course. It will have been like what is it, July International Fight Week, right? Normally, So it will have been like a year for Tom. We don't want him to sit out longer than that. And again, that timing is also in John's favor because he's going to take it easy. He's going to take some time off. Holidays are coming up, and I'm sure he's going to want to enjoy those with his family. But then I think beginning of next year, UFC will start the conversation. They'll reach out before that, but I think negotiations will start. What else are you gonna do? If John says no, UFC doesn't have a ton of leverage. So, but they do have a ton of money, so that's good for the fans. It's good for us. So hopefully.
Absolutely. Listen, we've had some big ones in the past with the likes of the Brock Lesnar's of this world being involved in the UFC. How big would this be for Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall? How big of a fight is that for UFC history?
It could be the biggest one, 100%. When I go back of the biggest heavyweight fights, I go back to Velasquez and Dos Santos, of course. I go back to Velasquez and Lesnar. Lesnar's been involved in a bunch of really big fights because he brings a lot of fans to the table, of course, that aren't not just fight fans. Like I have to think about it, but I definitely think that this will be the biggest heavyweight fight in the history of the UFC. Just with Jon Jones going up, and I wish he would have gone up earlier in his career. I do also wish that we would have seen him and Stipe like a couple years back, like 4 years ago. I think it would have definitely been a different fight, but yeah, like that's only if, and we'll never see that. So, but I think it will be the biggest fight in UFC heavyweight history.
No, I agree, mate. On Stipe, listen, you've got a win over him, and obviously that took place in the UK, in Nottingham. He has had a fantastic, fantastic career. How do you think his time in the UFC will be remembered?
I think like a lot of people look at him as the greatest heavyweight of all time, and it's crazy, like because he's such a good representative for the sport, for the UFC. He doesn't have anything outside the UFC, anything crazy going on. Like Jon Jones had a lot of things going on, and I was thinking of that this morning too. In the Netherlands, we have Badr Hari, who's one of the best kickboxers ever. But a lot more people will talk about you when you have like some crazy shit going on outside the cage. It brings a lot more eyes, and I'm happy Stipe didn't have anything like that, but I think more people would have, talked about him too. when he had stuff like that going on. But if you look at his resume, just absolutely incredible. We talk about Jon Jones's record and the people he's fought, and I was doing my research last week, and of course I know Stipe very well because I fought him, but just the list just goes on and on. Dos Santos, Overeem, Cormier, Ngannou. That the first fight with Ngannou, absolutely incredible. Before that too, Arlovsky, Hunt, just he had a great go in the UFC, and definitely it's not just the three defenses in a row that make him the best heavyweight of all time. It's also his resume. So
yeah, and he's, like you said, he's a stand-up guy. Cleveland, Ohio's gain in the fire department there, mate. He's obviously MMA's lost, and we wish him all the best with the next chapter of his life. Into the co-main event. Listen, the first time that these guys did it, it was one of the best fights that we've ever seen, especially for a title. Going back and forth, could have been Michael Chandler's. It ended up being Charles Oliveira. So we anticipated big things. This time we had 5 rounds to decide it. I personally didn't think we'd get all 5 rounds, but we did in the end. And again, I come away from it thinking inactivity's really played a role here, especially for Michael Chandler, because he's been waiting for Conor McGregor for such a long period of time. He just felt for a large percentage of this fight, right up until the last round, that he was just off a beat, and Charles Oliveira had his number.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think this time really, what we saw is that Charles Oliveira is just on another level than Michael Chandler. Chandler is a absolute physical beast, but technically and also the size played a big role. Charles does a really good job of using that in his advantage. I had when I was watching the fight early on, I thought something was wrong with Michael's leg, the way he was standing and moving around, just standing in front of Charles Oliveira. But just a great performance by Charles Oliveira, who was a pretty easy night for him, I think, except for the 5th round. But he hurt him on the feet, but then those elbows. What you make of those elbows on the ground? Because there were like 5 to 10 strikes, like to the back of the head and the neck, and the referee was on top of it. It looked really bad.
Listen, I hate, because it's a tough gig, is officiating a fight. Of course it is. There's a lot to think about in the moment, but he's an experienced referee, Keith Peterson. And in the moment, I thought that they were really close. I've gone back and watched it on TV, and they're absolutely strikes to the back of the head. He should have been pulled up on that. There was also a few other fouls within the fight as well. Blatant fence grabs. And Keith's missed them all, So I think the referee's not had the best of nights in that particular fight, if I'm honest, mate.
No, it's a really tough job, 100%. And he's a good referee. We've seen him done really well in the past. I was just like, I was screaming, like I got furious because if you allow
it's
that,
dangerous.
it's very dangerous to the back of the head, and especially the neck. Like bad things can happen there. We've seen that. We've seen it in the past, not only in MMA but with boxing. So I think we have to be really, really strict with that.
Yeah, it's a dangerous game. We don't need to make it more dangerous. I thought, like you said, he absolutely missed it in that particular moment. From a Oliveira point of view, he's super entertaining. I thought he was a lot more considered this time around. He was brilliant in getting the job done. I think most of us will conclude that it's going to be Makhachev against Sarukian for the next shot at the 155-pound strap. Would you put Charles directly behind that to get the winner?
Off the top of my head right now, yes. I don't have the rankings here with me. But Sarukian and Makhachev, of course, is going to happen next. Charles makes he definitely should be in line for that belt after that. But there's so many killers in that division. So, but from like watching, there's nobody that comes up right now who deserves it more than Charles, unless they want to do a super fight with Topuria. But I think Topuria needs to defend his featherweight title a couple times now first.
Yeah, listen, 145's deep as well, but 155, it just feels like there's that many killers in there. Nobody underneath the top guys, nobody's putting that run together, putting 2 or 3 together, because they're all fighting each other. And it's so competitive. They're all beating each other. So I just thought that at the weekend, it kind of made a little bit of sense who, if somebody did something spectacular, and okay, we didn't get the spectacular finish, but we got a solid performance from Charles Oliveira, given his history with Makhachev in the past, and obviously Sarukian, because he's just come off the back of the defeat to Sarukian, whoever wins that title fight, it would make sense for Charles Oliveira, given who he is, now that he's got over $1 million worth of bonuses, which is absolutely ridiculous with his tenure in the UFC. I think it would make sense for maybe him next year to get another shot.
No, I agree. He deserves it. He was in line already, of course. Volkanovski stepped in last minute when he had that cut. So with this performance, I think definitely.
One man that's come away from UFC 309 with a few critics, especially inside Madison Square Garden, was Bo Nickel. What did you make of that?
Man, like I completely understand now why they had him come back on Contender Series a couple times. And I think he's got a lot of work to do. He's got a lot of developing to do. I think it was his corner that told him to absolutely don't take it to the ground. But it was, man, especially in the third round when the crowd started to chant overrated. I've never heard that, but he's got so much potential. And I think this, actually, of course, you don't want to have a performance like that, but it's going to help him grow. Have that crowd go against you and, feeling the way you feel when that happens, frustrated and don't really know what to do. We all know he can grapple, he can wrestle. He just needs to grow, and it'll take a little more time.
The other highlight for me on the main card, Stefan, I don't know where you're at, was this guy. I've got myself some new merchandise from New York City. You might be able to see there in the background. I'll put them on for you, mate. So therefore, we all know where we're going with this. The hottest gym in the world right now is the Fighting Nerds. There's no doubt in my mind about that. And obviously, the guy kicking off the main card was Maurizio Ruffi. Firstly, hats off to James Yontop. Wow. The heart, the guts, the determination was absolutely insane. Okay, he wasn't at the level of a Maurizio Ruffi, but I tell you what, he matched him for will, no doubt about that. Maybe the skill was with Maurizio Ruffi. What's the ceiling with Ruffi for you? Because he is, when we're talking about entertaining fighters, mate, I'm on the edge of my seat every time this guy fights.
Yeah, no, 100%. He's got a great skill set. I do also think that he needs a little more time, so don't throw him in there right now with some of the best in that division. Give him like 2 or 3 more good fights. I was impressed with this fight. I was a lot more impressed with his Malaki fight. I think it's a really difficult. It was a difficult fight for him with his opponent stepping in late notice. Yeah. And then sometimes he could have easily knocked him out with any of the shots he landed. Of course, it didn't happen. Yontop very, very tough, as you say. So, but yeah, absolutely, he made it look he made it look spectacular, just the way he moves. And but I want to see him grow, and I want to see them give him a little more time to develop, and then I think he can be something special in that division for sure.
What's going on in that gym, Stefan? They're all doing it. Kyle Borralho, you've got Ruffi coming through. I mean, the talent in that Fighting Nerds gym is crazy.
Yeah, no, iron sharpens iron, of course. And I think I think they've won, what is it, like 11 out of 12 this year? I think mentally that's great when you're in that kind of environment. Everybody comes home after a fight happy and with, grown after another win. So it's just a great spot to be for them in right now, and they really seem to have a lot of positivity in that gym, and just a great thing going on there. It's a great thing to see.
No, absolutely. I think every fight fan is absolutely on board with the Fighting Nerds at the moment. Another person that everybody's on board with is Jim Miller. Listen, he's chasing 50. He's chasing it, and I think he's going to get there, It's always good to see Jim Miller win. Don't get me wrong. When he jumped that guillotine, I put my head in my hands like that going, what's he doing? But listen, he knows what he's doing. Absolutely sensational finish. And to get that at Madison Square Garden, you've got to be delighted for him.
Yeah, 100%. It was awesome to see that. The crowd loves him. We all hope he makes it to 50 when he it's crazy, man. He looks so good at this age. Just the way he fights still, he he's not slowing down. He's making it look easy. He's got a lot of wins the last couple of years, and I don't think there's a single person on the planet that doesn't love seeing it. Just a great overall guy and great fighter. He's been around such a long time too. I remember being on the same card winning when in Montreal when he submitted Charles Oliveira.
Yeah.
Crazy, man.
Mate, unbelievable career, and he's still going. And like I said, he's got his eyes firmly fixed on 50 fights. Fingers crossed he can get there. I'm sure he will. I've got to ask your opinion, seeing as that we cover a lot of the British athletes here on this particular show. Auin Elliott, he had a night at Madison Square Garden. This is a young man that 18 months ago was working in the back of a restaurant,
Nando's.
washing the plates in Nando's, mate, is what he was doing. And 18 months later, here he is at Madison Square Garden getting a 50K bonus for delivering one of the knockouts of the night.
Yeah, he looked absolutely incredible. And I've called him a couple of his fights when I was doing the commentary in the Netherlands for Cage Warriors. And he's getting better and improving every single fight, I think. It's great to see that because when I was calling his fights, I remembered him from great movement. Great cage control, but then this time the power, the way he planted his feet and landed it. When you combine that with the skill set that he already had, he's got a lot of potential. It's great to see it, and of course he's got a great gimmick with Chael. Dude, that's gonna help him a ton. Of course, get the fan base behind him. So yeah, he's a good dude, and I'm looking forward to seeing how far he's gonna go.
I want you to kind of refer back to your own journey in MMA, because when Auin was on Cage Warriors, he wasn't a full-time mixed martial artist because obviously the money's not there and what have you, so you've got to have a full-time job in order to pay your way, the rent and all these types of things with houses and stuff. When you are able to make the switch to become a full-time athlete, how much does it change for... I mean, it sounds obvious, but the levels of change in his performances since going full-time have been there for all to see. Does that resonate with you when you were able to do that?
For me, I was so young because I was still living with my parents, and I was just working the weekends in security. So I already had a lot of time because I was so young and I didn't have the bills to pay for a house and, kids or whatever, like if I look at my situation now with kids and, a house and family and everything you have to do, man, it's like, where do you get the time to train and do everything proper? But, so I was so young. I was lucky enough to, have my family support me in it and help me with everything. I had my older brother who trained with me, would drive me to the gym. And so really, I was really lucky to have all that at that age, of course. But I really do understand that when you're older and you don't have all that, it's difficult when you have to work a job. Sometimes multiple jobs. A lot of guys work security in the weekends, so you can't properly sleep after your training week. So it's great, and I think especially with Auin, you see it because a lot of people knew about him, but I saw his name when he was selected for the Ultimate Fighter. And now he has a lot more time, and what I just said, you see him develop every single fight. He gets better, and he already had a great skill set. So it's a great thing, and it's going to help him out a lot to improve even more.
No, absolutely. Completely agree with you. Coming up in December, we have UFC 310, and there's been a bit of a change. Obviously, we're disappointed that the title fight between Belal Muhammad and Shavkat Rakhmonov has fallen off. I was looking forward to that. But it's impressive to see Ian Garry put his hand up, who was fighting the week after against Joaquin Buckley. We've got the return of Colby Covington. I'll get to that in a minute. But first, UFC 310, we're going to get Shavkat Rakhmonov against Ian Garry, two former training partners at Killcliff. You know that gym incredibly well, man. I'm sure you've got tons of stories. Obviously, they'll stay on the mats. I get that. Completely get that. But firstly, as a fight fans have got to be excited about it because you've got two young guys, big aspirations of trying to get to the title, going against each other to determine the number one contender.
Yeah, but both undefeated still. It doesn't happen a lot.
Yeah.
Both have crazy records. Tons of finishes. Shavkat, of course, finished everybody they put in front of him. And as you say, they have some history in the gym, and there are some stories online. I know Henry Hove pretty good, but I never go and ask him about stories. You know, like I don't think that's the way to go. But yeah. So apparently, same thing you guys all heard is that Rachmanov hurt him in the gym. Um, he put him down, 8 count, whatever. I don't know what I said. I didn't ask. I didn't ask around. But yeah, just a great fight. Can't wait to see that one. Unfortunately, Belal Muhammad can't fight. Um, but in terms of styles, this is an excellent matchup, and I can't wait to see it.
Now, it's absolutely awesome. And what a way to finish off the year as well. At UFC 310, we've got Alexander Pantoja doing his thing against Kaya Sakura, which is an interesting matchup because obviously Sakura coming in from Rising straight into a title fight. He comes with a big reputation, does Asakura, doesn't he?
Yeah, 100%. I actually love what they did. And of course, it wasn't supposed to be the main event, as we just talked about. But I really love seeing it. I became a fan of the sport back when Pride was number one. You know, so it's for me. I love seeing Japanese fighters,
Yeah.
and they don't have a ton of great ones right now. So I hope they'll have a couple more in the near future. And when you look at what they're doing in Japan with wrestling, it's looking like more and more is going to come from that direction. I love seeing it. I like that they bring someone in from Ryzen to fight the champ immediately.
Yeah.
It's intriguing.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Listen, Japan at the moment is doing incredibly well in the world of boxing, especially in the lower weight divisions with the likes of Inoue Inoue doing his thing. And I think that the UFC, what they've done brilliantly over the years is go to the area where the champion is from. And like you've just said, at the moment, there isn't that Japanese guy. If Asakura can come in and he can do something special, I would bet my bottom dollar that in 2025, the UFC goes back to Japan with Asakura because it's a fantastic place for fights, isn't it?
100%. The fans really appreciate the fighters. They always respect the fighters a lot. It's a completely different crowd from what you get in the US or anywhere else. But I love seeing it. And then there's also Volkov and Gane, which is a really intriguing fight too, in my opinion, because Volkov has looked really, really good after the Aspinall fight. He looked really strong against Pavlovich. And Cyril Gane could be another really fun matchup for Tom Aspinall as well in the future. I know Tom is the more well-rounded fighter with the wrestling, with the grappling, but in the striking, that's going to be so much fun to see that fight between Tom and Cyril. If it's going to happen, hopefully we'll have another heavyweight fight next year, of course, with Jones and Aspinall. But I think you can definitely look at this fight as the number one contender fight in that division.
Yeah, a rematch, of course. Cyril won the first one, but as you've said, Volkov has been brilliant since, and Cyril's not been in the octagon for a period of time. Looking forward to it as well. Listen, I can't let you go without kind of giving you a little bit of a look at what happened in 2024. We have a debate on this show all the time about who is the front runner for Fighter of the Year. I think there's two big names. I'm not going to tell you where I'm at right now. Where are you at? Who do you think is the 2024 Fighter of the Year? Who's putting the performances for you?
Well, I think your front runners are Pereira and Topuria.
There you go.
It's just like a little guess, but I love what Pereira has done. Absolutely incredible. I was there when he knocked out Jamal Hill, made that look easy. Then his last fight was absolutely incredible with Khalil Roundtree. But if you look at the level of opponents, when you knock out 2 pound for pound grades in just like a period of 6 months, it's really hard to pick against Ilya Topuria. Absolutely incredible what he's done. And the first one also to knock out Max Holloway. And the way he did it, I love watching him fight. I think he's going to be the champion in that division for a long, long time. But it's difficult, man, because I also think Pereira deserves it. But, just like what makes it a little easier for me, just the level of competition. Two all-time greats, Volkanovski and Holloway. That's what, makes me decide it should be Topuria.
We're on the same page, Stefan. How good would it be to be able to, as I was saying before with the Sakura thing of being able to take, if he is successful, to take a champion to his hometown, for Ilia Topuria to fight in Spain, or even Georgia, but in particular Spain? I mean, that would be special in 2025.
Yeah, and if it can happen in Madrid and Bernabeu, that would be, imagine that. There was a lot of talk when Conor was the champ of him fighting in a stadium in Ireland, but I actually think that Topuria is going to get it done, and he's got such a big following. And Georgia, of course, would be great to see him fight there as well. But he really feels Spanish. For him, he wants to fight in Madrid, and with his walkout with the Spanish music, if that's possible to have him fight in Madrid, I know I'm going to be there.
We got to be there, man. We got to be there. How does the rest of the year look for you? Are you out at 310? What's are you doing more shows? Obviously covering it out in Netherlands.
Yeah, I got a couple other shows. One local show in Amsterdam, and then a couple PFL shows, and then 310 is the last UFC of the year, last big card of the year. So I think that's about it. Yeah, and the schedule calms down a little bit right now, but then we get ready again for January, February. So and then March, of course, back to London, which is always a good thing. Who do you think are going to headline that one?
As it sits right now, and the landscape might change after 310 if Ian Gary is successful. I'm going to say that Paddy and Moicano might be the headline for March 22nd. I think it'd be brilliant.
I heard that one. Yeah, no, it'd be a brilliant fight. Also, I heard a couple people mention Michael Venom Page and Leon Edwards.
Oh,
I wouldn't be mad at that one.
Absolutely not. That would be awesome. The battle
But
of Brit. Look at you getting some Brit on Brit violence in London, man. That's what we're going for. I like it.
I also heard Michael Venom Page may be fighting Shara Bullet. So
listen, both brilliant.
Won't be mad at that one either.
Yeah, exactly, man. There's a lot to look forward to. Just to get your final thoughts on the PFL, obviously, next week we are going to be covering this extensively because we've got a couple of British fighters, one of which being the co-presenter of the show, in Brendan Loughnane. In the featherweight championship final, we've got Dakota Dechiva doing fantastic things, and fingers crossed they can come through and be victorious there. The PFL really has, it feels like, got a good foothold in the MMA landscape over the last 12 to 18 months. I know that you've worked on a few of those shows. What have you made of their rise?
Yeah, they're doing a great job, and I think it's going to take a little more time, of course, especially when you go up against a giant like the UFC. But it's great for the fans. It's great for the fighters to not have just one home, but also have the PFL. And when I look at some of the champions the PFL has, I absolutely think if they would go, do a promotion versus promotion, they could hang with the UFC champions. You just mentioned Dakota Dechiva. I did the first year of PFL Europe, and she won that season. Of course, she looked absolutely phenomenal. And then the question was, can she do it on a higher level? And man, she looks unreal. So young, absolutely love seeing it. And then of course, Brendan Loughnane. He's got a very tough matchup.
Yeah.
Very, very tough matchup. But it's a great card. It's I believe they have it's the 6 championships fights, and then also 4 MENA fights, the Middle Eastern champion fights. So there's also some real talent there, man. Because I did that season for them this year. And I was really impressed with the level of talent. They're going to build on that. So I think they're doing a great job, and they're putting down a solid foundation for more growth, alongside already having some of the best fighters as their champions in the world. So I love seeing it, and I think it's a great thing for the sport that you have 2 promotions that have UFC's got a lot more depth.
Yeah,
in my opinion, but PFL is definitely up and coming there.
Listen, Stefan, thank you so much for doing the show today, mate. It's always good to get your insight. I know that your time's precious. You're a busy man, so thank you very much for coming to join me, mate.
Always appreciate it, and hopefully see you guys soon on another big show.
Absolutely. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel here on the talkSPORT MMA YouTube channel. We are going to be in Saudi Arabia next week as Brendan attempts to become champion once again in the featherweight division, and we'll get you closer to the action with the likes of Dakota Tchiva out there as well, aiming to become champion for the first time on that international scale with the PFL. Like and subscribe to the channel. We'll catch you next time.